My mother stood up and told a room full of 32 people that I was a failure. At my own birthday dinner, in one of New York's most expensive restaurants. Everyone laughed. And that's when I decided to let them think they'd won, while I quietly planned their destruction. The restaurant was packed. Saturday night at Le Bernardin, one of the most exclusive Michelin-star restaurants in New York City. My entire extended family was there, 32 people crammed around a long table in the private dining room. It was supposed to be my birthday celebration. My 30th birthday. A milestone. I should have known better. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Let's see how global we are. Then my mother stood up, tapping her wine glass with a fork. The room went quiet. She smiled at me, that practiced smile she'd perfected over the years. The one that looked warm to strangers, but felt cold to me. "I want to make a toast," she announced, her voice carrying across the room. "To my daughter, Haley, 30 years old today." I smiled, waiting for the usual birthday sentiments. "I love you. We're proud of you. Happy birthday." Instead, she said, 30 years old and still single. Still renting an apartment. Still working that little administrative job. She paused for effect, her smile never wavering. "But we love you anyway, sweetheart. Even if you're not quite where we hoped you'd be by now." The room erupted in laughter. Not uncomfortable laughter. Genuine amusement. My Uncle Greg slapped the table. "At least she showed up on time for once." More laughter. My cousin Jessica chimed in. "Maybe by 40 she'll have her life together." The laughter grew louder. My brother David grinned from across the table. "Should we take bets on whether she'll ever get promoted?" I sat there, frozen, my face burning. 32 people. 32 members of my family. And every single one of them was laughing at me. Not with me. At me. My mother sat down, looking pleased with herself. She'd gotten the reaction she wanted. My father said nothing, just cut into a steak like I didn't exist. I looked around the table. My aunt was wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. My grandmother was shaking her head with a pitying smile. My younger sister, who still lived at home at 26, was recording the whole thing on her phone. They thought this was funny. They thought tearing me down in public was acceptable family bonding. And I realized something in that moment. This wasn't new. This was a pattern. Every family gathering, every holiday, every celebration, I was the punchline. The family joke. The one they could mock to make themselves feel better. But here's what they didn't know. I wasn't the struggling failure they believed I was. That little administrative job? I was the executive assistant to the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I made $120,000 a year. The apartment I rented? I owned 3 properties in other states as investment real estate. Being single? By choice, after watching my parents' miserable marriage for 3 decades. I had deliberately downplayed my success to avoid their jealousy and criticism. I'd learned early that achievement made me a target. But as I sat there, watching them laugh, I made a decision. I was done hiding. Done shrinking. Done being their punching bag. I smiled. I picked up my wine glass. And I let them think they'd won. Because what I was about to do would change everything. And they would never see it coming. I left the restaurant early, claiming a headache. Nobody tried to stop me. My mother actually looked relieved, like my presence was dampening the mood. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to calm the rage boiling inside me. Then I drove home, poured myself a glass of actual good wine, not the cheap stuff my family drank while pretending to be sophisticated, and opened my laptop. I wasn't going to confront them. Confrontation never worked with people like this. They'd just gaslight me, tell me I was being too sensitive, that it was just a joke, that I needed to learn to take criticism. No. I was going to do something better. I was going to let them humiliate themselves. I pulled up my financial portfolio. 3 rental properties generating $4,500 monthly in passive income. A stock portfolio worth $340,000. Retirement accounts maxed out. 0 debt. My car was paid off. My credit score was 810. Then I looked at my family's financial situation. The parts one knew about from years of their oversharing and complaints. My parents, $87,000 in credit card debt, underwater on their mortgage. Dad's business failing, but too proud to admit it. Mom's shopping addiction funding their lifestyle. My brother David, leasing a BMW he couldn't afford. $45,000 in student loans from a degree he never finished. Living paycheck to paycheck while posting photos of expensive dinners on Instagram. My cousin Jessica, working 3 jobs to pay rent after her influencer career failed to monetize. Constantly borrowing money from relatives. My younger sister, no job. No prospects. Still living in our parents' basement, claiming she was finding herself. They were all barely surviving while pretending to thrive. And they had the audacity to mock me. I started making notes. Not out of spite, well, maybe a little spite, but because I needed to understand the full picture. I needed to know exactly what I was working with. Then I did something I'd been avoiding for months. I opened the email from my CEO, Richard Chen. The one marked confidential, urgent. The subject line read, Succession Planning Discussion. I'd been too afraid to read it, convinced it was about layoffs or restructuring. But now, sitting in my quiet apartment with nothing left to lose, I clicked it open. My breath caught. Richard was retiring in 6 months. The board was looking for his replacement. He was recommending me for the position. Not just recommending, actively advocating. He wanted to meet next week to discuss transition plans. CEO of a Fortune 500 company. At 30 years old. The salary range he mentioned was 7 figures. Stock options. Executive benefits. I read the email 3 times to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. Then I laughed. Not a happy laugh. A dark, incredulous laugh that echoed in my empty apartment. My family had spent the evening mocking me for my little administrative job, while I was being positioned to become one of the youngest CEOs in the industry. The irony was beautiful, painful, perfect. I saved the email, closed my laptop, and started planning. I wasn't going to tell them about the promotion. Not yet. I was going to let them keep believing their version of my life. Let them keep making jokes. Keep feeling superior. Because when the truth finally came out, and it would come out, the humiliation they'd feel would be far worse than anything they'd done to me. I just had to be patient, strategic, calculated. They thought they knew me. They had no idea who I'd become. And their reckoning was coming. 3 weeks passed. I accepted Richard's offer. The board approved my promotion pending a 90-day transition period. My salary jumped to $850,000 annually, plus stock options worth another $2 million over 4 years. I told no one. Not my friends. Not my colleagues outside the executive team. Especially not my family. But I did do one thing that set everything in motion. I hired Marcus. Marcus was an actor I found through a talent agency. Mid-30s, attractive, charming, and, most importantly, willing to play the role of my fake fiancé for an hourly rate. You want me to do what? He'd asked during our first meeting at a coffee shop. Pretend to be my boyfriend. Then propose to me at my family's Thanksgiving dinner. Make it dramatic. Public. Memorable. He'd stared at me like I was insane. Why? Because my family humiliated me in public. And I want them to invest emotionally in something that doesn't exist before I reveal the truth about my actual life. Marcus had thought about it for exactly 5 seconds before saying, I'm in. This sounds like the best gig I've had in years. We rehearsed. I showed him photos of my family members, coached him on their personalities, taught him enough details about my fake relationship story to make it believable. My mother called 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. You're coming to dinner, right? And please don't bring any drama this year. Actually, Mom, I'm bringing someone. His name is Marcus. We've been dating for 6 months. Silence. Then, 6 months? Why didn't you tell us? I wanted to make sure it was serious first. I could practically hear her brain calculating. A boyfriend. Finally. Something she could brag about at church. Something that made her daughter look normal. Well, we can't wait to meet him. Her voice was suddenly warm. Interested. The voice she used when I had something she wanted. Thanksgiving arrived. I showed up with Marcus, who played his part perfectly.
Charming.
Successful. I told them he was a financial consultant, which was vague enough to sound impressive. Attentive to me in a way that made my mother sigh romantically. Halfway through dinner, during dessert, Marcus stood up. He tapped his wine glass. The room went quiet. I know I'm new to this family, he said, his voice smooth and confident. But I want to thank you all for welcoming me. And I want to thank Haley for being the most incredible woman I've ever met. He got down on one knee, pulled out a ring box. The room collectively gasped. Haley, will you marry me? I looked shocked, which wasn't hard because even though this was scripted, the moment felt surreal. I let tears fill my eyes. Yes, I whispered. Yes. The room erupted. My mother was crying. My sister was recording on her phone again, but this time with happy tears. My father actually smiled at me for the first time in months. They hugged me,
Congratulated me.
told me how happy they were, how proud. My mother pulled me aside. I knew you'd figure your life out eventually, sweetheart. I'm so glad you finally found someone. I smiled. Thanks, Mom. I let them celebrate. Let them post about it on social media. Let them tell their friends. Let them invest completely in this narrative. Because in 2 weeks, I was going to shatter it. And everything else they believed about me. Drop a comment with the word patience if you think revenge is a dish best served cold. The announcement went public on a Monday morning. Tech industry publications ran the headline first. Fortune 500 giant names Haley Matthews as youngest CEO in company history. My phone started buzzing at 6:47 a.m. Texts,
Calls.
emails. Everyone wanted to confirm if it was really me. My family, radio silence. I knew they'd seen it. My mother was obsessed with Google alerts for our last name. She loved bragging when distant relatives achieved anything noteworthy. This was impossible to miss. I waited, went to work, sat through executive meetings, reviewed transition plans with Richard, acted like nothing was unusual. My mother finally called at 2:30 p.m. Haley. Her voice was tight, controlled. I just saw something online. Is it true? Is what true? Don't play games with me. The CEO position. The articles.
Oh, that.
Yes, it's true. They announced it today. Silence. Long, heavy silence. And you didn't think to tell your own mother? Your family? I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, I said casually. You know how I am about work stuff. Haley, this is not work stuff. This is huge. Why would you keep this from us? The same reason I kept my salary quiet. The same reason I never mentioned my investment properties. Because whenever I achieve something, it becomes ammunition. Something for everyone to pick apart or diminish. That's not fair. Mom, you toasted my 30th birthday by telling a room full of people I was a failure. You laughed about my job, my life. You humiliated me. Her voice shifted. Defensive. That was just family teasing. We didn't mean. You meant every word. And everyone laughed. So I decided to stop sharing my life with people who see me as a punchline. I could hear her breathing, trying to formulate a response. What about Marcus? What about the engagement? Were you going to tell us about the wedding? I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. Actually, Mom, I need to tell you something about Marcus. What? He's an actor. I hired him. There is no engagement. There never was. The silence this time was absolute. You what? I hired an actor to propose to me at Thanksgiving because I wanted you all to invest emotionally in my happiness for once. I wanted you to care about me.
To celebrate something about my life.
Even if it was fake. Haley, that's insane. That's manipulative. Is it? Is it more manipulative than publicly mocking your daughter at her birthday? Than laughing at her life choices? Than making her the family joke for 30 years? My mother's voice cracked. We never meant to hurt you. But you did. Over and over. And you all smiled while doing it. I hung up. Within an hour, my phone exploded. My father called. My brother. My sister. My cousins. Everyone suddenly wanted to talk to me. to congratulate me, to explain that they'd always believed in me.
Lies.
All of it. But I wasn't done yet, because the real revelation, the one that would change everything, was still coming. And it involved a decision I'd made that would cost my family something they valued more than anything: their reputation. My mother showed up at my apartment 3 days later, unannounced. She knocked until I answered. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes. No makeup. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. This was not the polished, country club version of Linda Matthews.
"We need to talk," she said.
I let her in. She stood in my living room, looking around like she'd never seen it before. The expensive furniture, the original artwork, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. This wasn't the modest apartment she'd imagined. "You've been lying to us for years," she said finally.
"No, Mom.
"I've been private. There's a difference. You let us believe you were struggling, that you needed help. That. I never asked you for help. You just assumed I needed it because I didn't perform success the way you wanted me to." She sat down on my couch without being invited. "Your father's business is failing. We're buried in debt. We might lose the house." There it was. The real reason she came. "And you think I should help?" I said flatly. "You're about to be a CEO. You make more in a year than we've made in 10. You're my daughter. Family helps family." I laughed. Actually laughed. Family helps family? Where was that philosophy at my birthday dinner? Where was family helps family when I asked for help with my student loans and you said no? When I needed a cosigner for my first apartment and Dad refused? We didn't have the money then. Yes, you did. You had enough to pay for David's car. Enough to fund Jessica's failed business ideas. Enough to let Sarah live at home rent-free for 8 years. You had money. You just didn't want to spend it on me. My mother's face crumpled. "That's not true. We love you. You love the version of me that stays small, that doesn't threaten the family hierarchy, that accepts being the joke so everyone else can feel superior." She was crying now. Real, ugly crying. "Please, Haley. We could lose everything. You already lost something. You lost my trust, my respect, my willingness to be part of this family dynamic. So, you're just going to let us suffer? Let your father lose his business? Let us lose our home?" I walked to my desk and pulled out a folder. Inside was a check. I handed it to her. She looked at the amount. Her eyes widened. "This is enough to save the house. Pay off the credit cards. Give Dad a chance to restructure his business." She looked up at me, confused. "I don't understand. You're helping us?" "I'm helping you this once. Not because you deserve it. Not because of what you did. But because I'm choosing to be better than you were to me." Her hand trembled as she held the check. "But there are conditions," I continued. "You will never mock me again. You will never diminish my achievements. You will never use me as the family punchline. And you will publicly apologize at the next family gathering for what you did at my birthday." "Haley, those are the terms. Take them or leave them. I don't need you to accept my money. But if you do, you accept my boundaries." She stared at the check, then at me. "You've changed."
"No, Mom.
"I just stopped pretending to be small enough for you to handle." She left with the check. No thank you. No apology. Just silence. But I knew she'd cash it. And I knew she'd struggle with the conditions. Because people like my mother hated being held accountable more than they hated losing money. What happened at the next family gathering would determine if anything had truly changed. Or if I'd finally have to walk away from them for good. Part 6. The Final Gathering. Word count: 495. Christmas Eve. My parents hosted at their house, the house my check had saved. I almost didn't go. James, my actual boyfriend I'd been seeing for 2 months, offered to spend the holiday with me instead. "You don't owe them anything," he said. "Especially not after what they did." But I needed to see this through. I needed to know if my mother would keep her word. I arrived alone. The house was decorated like always. White lights, elegant wreaths, the appearance of perfection. 30 people crammed into the living room. The same crowd from my birthday. My mother saw me first. Her smile was strained. Haley, you came. I said I would. Dinner was uncomfortable. People kept glancing at me, whispering. They'd all seen the news about my promotion. Suddenly, I wasn't the family failure. I was the family success story they'd misjudged. My uncle tried to make a joke about my little job but caught himself mid-sentence when my mother shot him a look. After dessert, my mother stood up, tapped her wine glass. The room went quiet. Here it was. The moment of truth. I want to say something, she began. Her voice was shaking. A few months ago, at Haley's birthday dinner, I said some things I regret. Things that were cruel, unnecessary, hurtful. The room was completely silent. I made fun of my daughter's life choices, her career, her relationship status. I made her the joke, and many of you laughed along. I could see people shifting uncomfortably, looking at their plates. Haley has achieved things I can't even comprehend. She's built a life through hard work and discipline while we judged her for not performing success the way we expected. I was wrong. I'm sorry, Haley. Truly sorry. She looked at me, tears in her eyes. Real ones this time. I nodded. Not forgiveness. Just acknowledgement. My father stood next. I should have defended you. I didn't. I chose comfort over courage. I'm sorry too. One by one, family members who had laughed at my birthday started apologizing. Some genuine. Some clearly uncomfortable. But they were doing it. David apologized for his comments. Jessica for recording and posting it. Even my grandmother said she should have spoken up. After dinner, I pulled my mother aside. Thank you for doing that, I said. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Admitting I was wrong in front of everyone. Now you know how I felt. Being humiliated in front of everyone. She nodded slowly. I understand. And Haley, I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. I didn't cry. Didn't hug her. Just said, I appreciate that. I left early. Went to James's apartment. Spent the rest of the evening with someone who actually celebrated my success instead of resenting it. Did my family change overnight?
No.
Do we have a perfect relationship now? Absolutely not. But they learned something important. I wasn't their punching bag anymore. I wouldn't shrink to make them comfortable. And if they wanted me in their lives, they had to treat me with basic respect. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's setting boundaries and watching people realize they can't cross them anymore. I let them think they got away with humiliating me. Then I showed them exactly who I was. And that was more powerful than any confrontation could have been. If you've ever had to set boundaries with family who didn't respect you, drop a comment with the word boundaries below. Let's remind each other that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Believe me, I read every single comment. Your story matters. Your voice matters. You matter.